8. Grandma cheats death twice. In November 2011, a Russian grandmother was miraculously resurrected after being hospitalized for a few health issues. This may seem more like the plot for a horror film instead of anything that could take place in real life, but we assure you, according to Lyudmila Steblitskaya's family, this is a completely true story. After spending 3 days in the morgue after succumbing to her illness, 61-year-old Lyudmila shocked both her loved ones and medical professionals when they tried to move her body for a funeral. The doctors told Lyudmila's daughter that the elderly woman had somehow survived 72 hours straight under morgue refrigeration, which is no simple task even for a person in perfect health. Morticians typically keep their mortuary coolers at chilly temperatures, somewhere between 36 and 39 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not freezing, but it's still very cold. Lyudmila's 29-year-old daughter Anastasia had already started grieving and planning her mother's funeral when she was given the unbelievable news. After spending a total of 60,000 rubles on preparations for things like the casket, flower arrangements, food for the mourners who planned to attend the funeral, and having a grave spot dug up, Anastasia was informed that she did it all for nothing. She'd even gone to the hospital to pick up her mum's body, but doctors told her that an autopsy hadn't been carried out because Lyudmila was still alive and breathing. Lyudmila couldn't remember much from her time in the morgue, only that she went to hospital on a Friday and suddenly woke up the next Monday to find that her skin was starting to peel from the constant cold. Despite everything that she went through though, Lyudmila was simply grateful to have a little more time to spend with her friends and family. Amazingly, this wasn't the only time Lyudmila cheated death. Just 1 year later, in October 2012, she was checked back into the hospital after experiencing some heart problems. And while she was under the care of trained doctors, she seemed to die once again. But miraculously, once again, doctors managed to bring her back after a few hours. Stories like this one are rare and difficult to come by. After all, it's not every day that a person comes back from the land of the dead. It does make you wonder how many people have been buried alive while still breathing. 7. Saved by the Snore. In a bizarre incident that took place in January 2018 in Asturias, northern Spain, Gonzalo Montoya Jimenez, an inmate locked up in a local jail, found himself in an extraordinary situation. Jimenez had been declared dead by not just 1, but 3 different doctors, only to be discovered alive mere hours before his scheduled post-mortem examination. This shocking sequence of events started when prison staff found Jimenez collapsed in his cell. Believing him to be lifeless, the authorities took the initiative and next step of placing him in a body bag. They then transferred him to a hospital mortuary, preparing for an autopsy. And it was during this frightening moment that Jimenez and his family made a strange observation. He had markings on his body as if he were right about to undergo a post-mortem procedure. The Forensic Anatomical Institute of Oviedo, who was tasked with conducting said autopsy, later admitted to making a grave error. Their realization that Jimenez was in fact alive came when they heard the sound of him peacefully snoring on the autopsy table. The shocking turn of events begged for immediate action, and Jimenez was immediately moved to the Central University Hospital of Asturias, HUCA, in Oviedo, where he was put under intensive medical observation. Miraculously, Jimenez regained consciousness only 24 hours later, and his first concern, according to reports, was to see his wife. This unexpected awakening baffled medical professionals and raised many questions about what exactly happened. The incident was attributed to a suspected case of catalepsy, a rare condition that's characterized by an insensitivity to pain, body rigidity, and a slowdown of essential functions including those like breathing. The medical team initially had concerns about potential brain damage in the patient, but signs quickly turned positive as Jimenez started to speak and showed clear signs of retaining his memories, particularly those concerning his wife. It was then revealed that Jimenez did have epilepsy and was taking medication. but there were concerns that he may not have been taking his meds as prescribed during his stay in prison. This extraordinary case of a man who was wrongly declared dead and then came back to life caught the attention of not only medical professionals, but also the general public and news networks. It serves as a reminder of the complexity of medical conditions and the importance of both accurate diagnosis and treatment, even in the most unusual and impossible circumstances. 6. A mother's touch. In an incredibly emotional and almost unbelievable story that happened in April 2014, Analia Buta, a mother from Argentina, experienced a parent's worst nightmare, only to be unexpectedly blessed with an otherworldly ending. Buta's newborn baby was initially delivered stillborn. The little girl was pronounced dead instantly after birth. But an astonishing turn of events occurred about 12 hours later when the grieving parents found that their baby was actually very much alive. The ordeal started when Buta, in the 6th month of her pregnancy, went into sudden premature labor on April 3rd. She delivered her baby at a hospital located in northern Argentina, where medical professionals upon delivery quickly declared the child stillborn, believing that she couldn't possibly have survived in the womb. According to doctors, there were no signs of life in the infant after being born, and the grieving parents weren't even given the chance to see or touch their baby before she was whisked away. In an attempt to get closure and say their final goodbyes, Buta and her husband Fabian Veron insisted on visiting their baby in the morgue, where she'd been sent away. Then, about 12 hours after the birth, the grieving parents walked into a refrigerated room where their baby's body was being stored. In an emotional moment, Buta touched her daughter's icy hand, and to her astonishment, the newborn twitched in response. The baby wasn't only alive, but was breathing and apparently in decent health. Remarkably, the child didn't require any resuscitation efforts. Overwhelmed with gratitude and endless joy, Buta and Veron gave their daughter a suitable name, Luz Milagros, which translates to the miracle of light. This remarkable event raised many questions, prompting the Argentinian government to launch an investigation into this near-medical disaster. The region's Undersecretary for Health emphasized that all individuals involved in the situation had some level of responsibility and would be held accountable. For Analia Buta and her family, though, the relief and happiness of having a healthy and living baby overshadowed any other feelings. As Buta herself expressed, the joy of knowing she's alive is covering every other feeling. 5. Breathing body bag. In September 2011, a startling incident unfolded in Brazil when Rosa Celestrino de Assis, a woman in her 60s, became the subject of a medical mishap. Admitted to the hospital for a simple case of pneumonia, Rosa's attending physician prematurely pronounced her dead after picking up no vital signs. She was then sent to the morgue, where she stayed in a plastic body bag for at least 2 hours. Rosa's daughter, Rosangela Celestrino, was confronted with an unimaginable scene not long after. When she went to bid her mother a last touching farewell, she sensed that Rosa was, in fact, still alive in the room with her. In disbelief, Rosangela exclaimed that her mother was breathing, but her outburst was initially met with a few skeptical stares from those nearby. Hospital authorities explained that Rosa had gone through 2 strokes in her past and was reliant on assisted breathing. At approximately 7:30 p.m., a nurse contacted the attending doctor thanks to Rosa's apparent lack of vital signs. Then, after a haphazard evaluation, the doctor confirmed her passing and directed her body to be sent to the morgue. It wasn't until about 10 p.m. that the mistake was discovered by hospital staff. Rosa was promptly re-intubated and put back on life support. The hospital director, Manuel Moreira Filho, acknowledged the massive error and ensured that immediate corrective measures would be taken. This incident highlights the importance of precise medical assessment and communication in tense healthcare settings. It also emphasizes the potential consequences of premature conclusions in situations where a patient's life hangs in a delicate balance. 4. Under the knife. In the year 2007, a remarkable and unsettling incident occurred in Venezuela involving a 33-year-old man named Carlos Camejo. Carlos found himself in a distressing situation when he woke up in excruciating pain. When he came to, he realized he was undergoing an autopsy procedure. The sequence of events leading up to this shocking situation started with a tragic highway accident taking place near Caracas. Carlos was unfortunate enough to be involved. After the accident, he was taken to a morgue where medical examiners thought that he was deceased. But during the procedure, medical examiners made an incision directly on Carlos's face, only to discover an unnerving and chilling fact. The man they believed to be lifeless was bleeding out. This startling revelation made the medical team realize that a grave error had been committed. They then took immediate action to close up the incision made on Carlos's face. The patient later remembered his experience, stating, "I woke up because the pain was unbearable." Adding to the surprising turn of events, Carlos's wife arrived at the morgue to identify her husband's lifeless body. To her profound shock, though, she didn't find his lifeless form on the examination table, but instead met a very much still alive Carlos in one of the morgue's dark hallways. Carlos Camejo's incredible story of reawakening in the midst of his own autopsy received significant attention. And to validate the strange incident, he later presented his autopsy document and the facial scar from the procedure to a local newspaper, El Universal, who then featured his story. While the experience of waking up in a morgue under the knife of a medical examiner is nightmarish and deeply unsettling, it serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of accurate medical diagnosis and the potential consequences of even the rarest errors. In Carlos Camejo's case, the pain he experienced upon regaining consciousness in the morgue was undoubtedly shocking. But in some situations, waking up in severe pain is far better than not waking up to anything at all. 3. A grave mistake. In January 2014, something startling took place in Kenya that left hospital staff and the family of 24-year-old Paul Mutora baffled. Mutora had been pronounced dead and was transported to a morgue, only to later regain consciousness and call out for help. The shocking turn of events stirred an investigation into the circumstances surrounding this extraordinary case. Paul Mutura's story began when he was rushed to a hospital in critical condition after purposefully ingesting insecticide, apparently as a result of trying to end his own life after a messy dispute with his father. His condition was dire, and medical professionals worked tirelessly to get him stabilized. But on a Wednesday night, Mutora's condition got worse, and he was declared dead at about 11 p.m. Subsequently, his body was moved to the morgue, where his family later visited to make arrangements for his funeral, thinking him deceased. The astonishing twist in this tale happened when two mortuary attendants heard noises echoing from a side room inside the morgue. Upon investigation, they found Paul Mutora alive and breathing. They were in complete shock and disbelief, but they quickly ran for help. Paul Mutora's unexpected recovery led to his immediate return to the hospital's ward, and medical professionals confirmed that he was out of danger. Hospital Superintendent Dr. Joseph Muburu shed some light on the possible cause of the incorrect death diagnosis. He suggested that the anti-poison drugs given to Mutora upon his arrival at the hospital might have created a false impression of death. These drugs were capable of inducing the slowing of the heart rate and dilation of the pupils, which are often used as key indicators of life or death. In the aftermath of this incident, Mutora expressed his remorse for the misunderstanding and apologized to his father for what he'd done. Meanwhile, some family members believed that the hospital should be held accountable, citing carelessness in the diagnosis. Dr. Umburu assured the public that the hospital was investigating the circumstances that led to the incorrect declaration, emphasizing that the healthcare professional responsible for Mutaura's case may not have fully understood the effects of the drugs utilized in his treatment. 2. Scientific miracle. In May 2013, a heartwarming incident took place at Feline Hospital in Kuwait City, involving a pregnant Filipino woman that left medical professionals in shock. The woman, who had been declared clinically dead right before giving birth, miraculously came back to life mere moments after delivering her baby boy. The leading doctors on the case described the event as a scientific miracle. The 36-year-old Filipina, who'd been 9 months pregnant, was admitted to the hospital in critical condition with severely high blood pressure around 3:30 a.m. Then, tragically, her health rapidly deteriorated, leading to a cardiac arrest while being examined in the casualty department. Her heart stopped beating, and she also stopped breathing, leading to her getting declared clinically dead. In a fast race against time, medical personnel immediately rushed her to the operating table to perform an emergency cesarean procedure to save the baby. And reports indicate that they only had about 5 minutes to deliver the child. In an incredible display of medical expertise, doctors performed a successful peri-mortem C-section on the clinically dead woman who had no pulse or respiratory activity at all. Not only did they deliver a healthy baby boy who weighed in at 6.8 pounds, but they also managed to revive the mother moments later. Dr. Mohammed Hassan, who supervised the operation, described the event as a scientific miracle at all levels. The hospital's maternity division was then put on high alert as soon as the woman was declared dead, and the successful delivery and resuscitation that followed were nothing short of incredible. What makes this story even more remarkable is that the cesarean operation was conducted without anesthesia, since the mother was considered dead. Both the mum and her newborn baby were reported to be in stable condition after the procedure. And now for number 1. But if you want to hear even more stories, stay tuned for some extra content that you might have missed. 1. The Bond of Brothers. In May 2017, an unusual and somewhat creepy incident unfolded at the mortuary of Plateau Specialist Hospital in Jos, Nigeria, causing panic among witnesses. The event happened as the deceased Choji Zeng was being prepared for burial by his brother, Mr. Guyang Zeng, ultimately resulting in a shocking turn of events. Choji Zeng, a 35-year-old man, passed away after a brief illness reportedly related to liver disease. He and his brother Guyang Zeng had been living together at Ungwan Juma Abattoir in the Jos metropolis. The incident occurred during the process of dressing the deceased in preparation for his burial ceremony. Family members had recently participated in washing the man's body as well. But as Guyang Zeng was dressing his brother's lifeless body with a sacred white shroud, the hand of the deceased suddenly grasped onto his brother's. Witnesses, including family members and neighbors who were there during the incident, were thrown into a state of panic. The sight of Choji Zeng, who was presumed to be lifeless, tightly gripping his brother's hand was nothing short of astonishing. The commotion attracted mortuary attendants who quickly intervened, separating the two brothers. According to Guyang Zeng, he had to seek help from a mortuary attendant to release the grip of his dead brother's hand, an experience he described as overwhelming. In the middle of this confusing situation, Guyang Zeng even spoke with his brother, questioning the reason behind the gripping gesture. He asked Choji, "Why did you hold my hand? Do you want me to join you?" Remarkably, one of the mortuary attendants mentioned that similar occurrences weren't entirely unheard of within the mortuary environment. But despite the strangeness of what went down, no foul play was suspected in Choji Zeng's passing. It's important to note that this bizarre event left family members both startled and shocked, highlighting the mysterious and unpredictable nature of life and death.
10. Cranky Koala. A woman who saw a cute koala walking on the side of the road in Queensland, Australia, got a rude awakening when she suddenly approached the wild animal and didn't get the welcoming response she expected. In a viral TikTok, she crouched down and talked to the marsupial before reaching out for cuddles. The koala became alarmed and charged at her, causing her to lose her balance and fall backward to the ground as she tried to get away. A full-fledged attack soon followed, while the person filming the video just laughed. Koalas are undeniably cute and look very cuddly, but just like any other wild creature, they're prone to aggression when threatened. Based on her lack of caution, some commenters believed that the woman was an American, or at least not from Australia, since most locals are well aware of the dangers associated with approaching koalas. 9. A violent escape. In 2007, a large male silverback gorilla named Boquito escaped from his cage at a zoo in Rotterdam. He then went on a rampage and violently attacked a 57-year-old woman from behind, dragging her on the ground and biting her over 100 different times. She was quickly rushed to the hospital with a broken arm and wrist, along with some other serious injuries. Speaking with the Dutch Telegraph newspaper, she said that Boquito put all his weight on top of her. In the moment, she truly thought she was going to die. Ironically, Boquito was the woman's favorite animal in the whole zoo. She was such a big fan of the guy that she visited almost daily. Employees noticed her smiling and making direct eye contact with the gorilla, and told her to avoid eye contact, letting her know that some primates perceive it as a threat or challenge when smiled at. But the woman insisted she and Boquito had a special bond and deeply understood each other. Even after the attack, she said he was still her favorite animal. 3 others were hurt during the rampage as zoo visitors scrambled to get away from the angry gorilla, who ran at full speed down guest pathways. Employees eventually managed to lock him in a restaurant and shot him with a tranquilizer dart before dragging him back to the enclosure. This wasn't the first time Boquito escaped either. Back in 2004, he broke out of his cage at a zoo in Berlin. Thankfully, in this case, he was quickly captured and returned to his exhibit, and nobody was harmed. 8. Maniacal Monkeys. A monkey trainer in China's Jiangxi province got an unexpected taste of his own medicine one day in 2011 when an animal in his care turned on in the middle of a street performance. The man was known for being cruel toward monkeys, mainly by whipping them if they disobeyed his commands. When one of them got fed up with the abuse, he lunged at his trainer and grabbed at his hair. Photos of the incident show the man grimacing as if in excruciating pain. The trainer tried to grab his whip to discipline the monkey, who snatched a stick off the ground to keep fighting his instructor. They squared off with their weapons in a stick-to-stick match as a crowd of witnesses laughed. Hopefully, it made the man rethink his training methods. In another instance of primates lashing out at a human, a tourist pushed a monkey off the fence he was sitting on in Fujian province back in 2018. The monkey was heard crying in footage captured of the act, but he quickly got back up and went straight for the man's face. He then chased the tourist into a temple nearby. Another monkey then joined in on the attack, and the pair made another go at the man's face before visitors drove the primates away. He was left with some nasty scratches, but not very many people felt all too bad for him. 7. Big game hunter pays big price. 46-year-old Jose Monsalves and a friend traveled from Argentina to Namibia in 2017 to hunt some big game living on a private wildlife reserve. The pair were out with 3 others when an elephant charged at them and trampled Monsalves. By the time a group member was able to shoot, he was dead. Just months before, a 51-year-old South African hunter named Theonis Botha had a fatal run-in with an elephant in Zimbabwe. His group met a herd of the creatures, some of whom were pregnant, and 3 of them charged at the hunters. Botha shot one of them, and a fourth elephant also ran toward the group. She lifted Botha up with her trunk and slammed him on the ground when one of the hunters shot at her, causing her to fall on top of him and crush him. Botha's death came as sad news to the trophy hunting community, where he was well known for leading rich clients on hunts. Even some who weren't a big fan of his lifestyle conceded that any human death is nothing to laugh about. But some animal lovers and activists felt no sympathy for Botha, chalking the incident up to a well-deserved example of karma. 6. Fatal feline encounter. In early 2018, a human head was found on a private reserve in South Africa with a rifle laying nearby. At first, authorities thought it belonged to a park employee, but the worker was found alive. They were still struggling to identify the person, how they died, and where the rest of the body was when the gruesome discovery made headlines. Police thought that he was most likely a poacher, and that a wild animal had killed and eaten the majority of him. In recent years, the region with Kruger National Park has become well known for rhinoceros poaching. But the severed head was found in an area where lions are more common. The man was later identified as 50-year-old David Baloyi, who had crossed into South Africa with 2 other hunters from Mozambique to hunt. They tracked a pride of lions when Baloyi's friends heard him screaming for help. The hunters panicked and left their partner and guns behind to go back to Mozambique. They told Baloyi's family he had been devoured by the big cats, and his sister confirmed his identity. Identifying the brutally slain man was only one piece of the puzzle. Investigators opened an inquiry into the tragedy in hopes of learning more about what happened leading up to Baloyi's gruesome death. But all signs pointed toward the men foolishly deciding to hunt for lions at night. One of them paid for it with their life. 5. Barreled by a buffalo. Claude Kleinhans was a celebrity in the trophy hunting world with over 30 years of experience hunting big game in Africa. He met an ironic end in 2018, though, when his hunting party killed a buffalo in the Limpopo province of South Africa. The 54-year-old and his group members were loading the creature onto a truck when another buffalo from the same herd suddenly charged at them, puncturing his groin with its horn and piercing his femoral artery. He died almost instantly. In some ways, the attack wasn't all too surprising. Buffalo are known for being territorial, especially when it comes to protecting their herd. They're also massive, weighing up to 1,300 pounds or 590 kilograms. But it was shocking that a hunter as experienced as Kleinhans would have let down his guard in a situation like this. Throughout his career, he led big game hunts for high-paying clients through his company, Koala Safaris. Customers could choose from dozens of animals to kill. Some of the creatures had a fee listed next to them, including zebras, which came with a $1,500 trophy fee, and giraffes, which came at a larger cost of $2,850. Other species had no specified fee, including buffalo, which were part of an exclusive special package. One thing's for sure, Kleinhans died doing what he loved, even if it was a questionable activity. 4. An ironic plunge while hunting in Oregon's remote Maury Mountains. 69-year-old Gary Heater shot a large elk in 2016. He began towing it up a steep hill with his ATV when the vehicle flipped out of nowhere, making him fall backwards and land on top of the animal's antlers. Heater was impaled and badly injured. Members of his hunting team gave first aid and called for help, but because of how far away from civilization they were, they knew Gary would need to be flown to the hospital. They did their best to get his bleeding under control in the meantime. The group was still waiting for the chopper when a deputy got there. He observed that Heater was conscious and responsive, but was going into shock. When the helicopter arrived, the pilot had trouble finding a clearing big enough to land. He eventually found a place, but the group had to carry their friend half a mile, 0.8 kilometers, away to reach the aircraft. Luckily, they got Heater loaded onto the chopper before fuel levels became an issue. None of Heater's organs were damaged beyond repair, although he injured some of his back muscles. If he had landed even slightly in other directions, things could have turned out much worse. 3. Confronted by a crocodile. 44-year-old Scott Van Zyl mysteriously vanished in 2017 during a safari hunt in Zimbabwe. None of the other hunters realized anything was amiss until his hunting dogs returned to camp later that day without him. It was surprising because Zyl was an experienced outdoorsman. But it was clear to his friends that something went terribly wrong when they found his rifle inside his truck. With him nowhere in sight, a large-scale search ensued. Group members passed out flyers to the public, helicopters flew over the reserve, and others looked for Van Zyl from the ground. Their first clue to his whereabouts came when they saw his footprints leading up to the bank of the Limpopo River and his backpack nearby. It was then that police started to suspect Van Zyl had been eaten by crocodiles. It was a reasonable theory, considering how 3 people had already been killed by reptiles that month alone. The month before, the remains of an 8-year-old boy were found inside a crocodile after he went missing. During their search, officers shot 2 crocodiles and found what appeared to be human remains inside their stomachs. DNA tests confirmed that they were, in fact, responsible for the missing hunter's death. 2. Eaten alive. In 2018, a group of poachers broke into a South African private game reserve to hunt rhinos. They encountered an angry pride of lions, and by the time investigators found them, only a skull and a piece of someone's pelvis remained. So little of the hunters was left that law enforcement couldn't even say with certainty how many people had been killed. They found 3 pairs of boots and 3 pairs of gloves, indicating that the big cats feasted on about 3 men. The first sign that something was wrong came during the early morning, when an anti-poaching dog alerted his handler to something unusual. Lions could be heard nearby, but the handler didn't investigate since it was a normal time of day to hear lion activity. Near the remains, officers found hunting gear as well as wire clippers, which are usually a telltale sign of someone being a poacher. Law enforcement then launched a ground and air search for any possible survivors, but failed to find any. The park's owner, Nick Fox, told press that the poachers' deaths were undoubtedly tragic, but that the incident should serve as a warning sign that going on illegal hunts is risky and can be life-threatening. It's unclear whether detectives ever identified who the men were, or even if they concluded how many were eaten. 1. A primate's payback. When villagers in southwestern India's Karnataka state complained about a bonnet macaque bothering children in search of food, local wildlife authorities hatched a plan to trap him. Their first step was to drive 3 cars toward the monkey to send him off in a specific direction with the help of civilians. Instead of fleeing from one of the cars, the monkey instead charged at the driver and bit him in the hand. The man ran off, but it was far from the last time they would cross paths. From then on, the macaque followed and attacked the villager every time he came into view. When he took refuge in his vehicle, the creature charged right at it and ripped off the cloth covering. His rickshaw was rendered undrivable, leaving him unable to do his job properly, and he sustained painful injuries. He was also worried about the safety of his young children, often leaving him afraid to go home in case an unwelcome visitor followed. Wildlife officials finally caught the monkey and relocated him over 13 miles, 22 kilometers away to another forest. The man thought the torment was finally over, but he was mistaken. Less than a week later, his arch-nemesis reappeared, having traveled all the way back to the village just to go after him. When the man learned the monkey was back, he went into literal hiding and begged authorities for help. Wildlife officials quickly recaptured the creature and once again relocated it to another forest. This time, the macaque stayed away for good.
Would you rather have the ability to bring one person back from the dead for a single day to spend time with them, or get a message from a loved one who's passed away, offering guidance and support to you in your life, but never get to see them again? Let us know what you choose in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.